This is an Hisense soundbar that I've had for over 2 months now, and I did not originally plan to do a video for this particular soundbar, but I realized that in the past 2 months that I've been using this Hisense soundbar that there is a problem that it has, and I think that is worth doing a video over, just in case there's someone out there who want to purchase this particular soundbar. They are completely aware that if they do purchase this soundbar, this might be a problem that they might face. So before we go into the speaker here and the problem that it has, I would like to talk about something. I am not an audiophile, so I would not be talking about the speaker in the sense of its mid, its lows, and all of these other things that you may find in other reviews. If you're interested in this kind of thing, I would advise you watch other people's video on this speaker and how it sounds. However, I would do a sound test. I would also talk about other things about the speaker before I then go to the problem that I've noticed that I faced while I'm using the speaker. So having said that, I'm going to approach this video in 4 different segments. I'm going to talk about the speaker in terms of its design. I'm also going to talk about the speaker in terms of how you can connect this particular speaker to whatever device or your TV. And then I'm also going to talk about how it sounds. And then fourthly, I will then talk about the problem. So before we talk about the design of the speaker, let's talk about what you get when you purchase the speaker. The first thing obviously you get is the speaker itself. You then get a remote, and you then get an optical cable as well as a power cable. Those are the 3 basic things that you get in the box that you might necessarily need. There's a manual, of course, and there's a warranty leaflet, I think. But for the things you most likely will use is the speaker itself, the optical cable, and then the remote, as well as a AAA battery for the remote. So this speaker right here is a Hisense HS214. Now it's a very small speaker, if you ask me. Like, it's very, very low profile. In terms of how long it is, it's around 25 inches I mean to say, which is pretty much the size of, if you take this ruler for instance, 2 of the ruler is around 24 inches, so had a tiny bit more, and that's 25 inches. And the height is around 2.5 inches, so pretty much this can fit into anywhere you want it to fit in. And the top of the speaker, you would see kind of frame that make it look as though it's leather, but it's not leather, obviously it's plastic, but they're trying to make that illusion that it looks like leather, and they give it that premium feel, I think. And then obviously there's the grill, of the speaker. Now underneath the speaker, which is one of the things that make the speaker so good, is that it has a sound woofer underneath the speaker. So it's a 140 watt speaker with a inbuilt sound woofer, which is the reason why I chose the speaker, and you will get to see how this comes to play when I do test the sound or the audio of the speaker. There's also an handle over here that you can use to hold the speaker if you want, and there's another one over here, but this is not an handle. This is pretty much where hair can pass out from. Why this sound woofer under here is being used, this can allow hair to escape. You can also place this on, of course, on your console, or if you want, there are holes behind the speaker that you can use, to mount this on the wall and just keep it floating if you want to have it that way. What are the ways you can use to connect Soundbar to a particular device? There are several ways. You can either use Bluetooth if you want to use Bluetooth. You can use aux cable if you want to use aux cable. You can use optical cable that it came with if your TV supports optical cable. You can also use HDMI ARC if your TV has HDMI ARC port. You can also use another port that is called coaxial as well. And then you can use USB, so you can plug a flash into this soundbar and then use that to play a song from there as well. So if you look at the top of the soundbar where you have the brand name and the letter thingy, you would see there are different ways of connecting them written out, as well as different colors. Now what this means are that for every time that this color shows, it kind of tells you the mode you're in. At the front of the speaker where you have the grill is where this color will be displayed. So it tells you that if it's white, it means it's in HDMI ARC. If it's in blue, dark blue is in Bluetooth. If it's in light blue is in coaxial. If it's in green is in aux, and so on and so forth. You also have these 4 touch buttons on top of the soundbar. So you have your on button. The other button is your source button, pretty much how you switch between Bluetooth, HDMI, coaxial, aux, or even USB. Then you have your volume down, and you also have your volume up. These are all soft touch, by the way. You don't have to, there's no clicky sounds to them, you just soft touch them, and these things happened. At the back of the speaker or the soundbar pretty much is where you see where you can connect all of these. So you have, again, like I said, you have your USB at this side, you have your optical cable at this other side, you have your aux cable at this side, you have your HDMI, and you have your coaxial. And they've kind of labeled it according to how they are arranged in the back as well. And then the other side of the back is where you have your plug-in, your AC in, where you can plug this in and then plug it to your power source so you can empower, this speaker. So before we go to how this sounds like, let's quickly take a look at the remote and how the remote looks like. So this right here is what the remote looks like. Yeah, and as you can see, it's a pretty basic, simple remote, and there are a few keys on top that I wanted to speak about real quick. So obviously you have your on button, and then you have your mute button, which you have over here, and then you have these 3 sound profiles at the top. Yeah, you have music, you have movie, you have music, and then you have news. So what this does pretty much is it kind of creates the sound, the feel of the sound a particular kind of way. I find that when you put it in movie, you have more bass than when you put it in music. I don't know why that is done. The music is a bit more balanced, the movie has a bit more bass, and the news is like very flat. So you can pretty much hear the vocals a lot more. And then you have this circle wheel thing here, yeah? And this way you have your volume up, volume down, next, and previous. And in the middle of this, you have your play and your pair button. So pretty much you're going to pair this with Bluetooth using the remote. What you want to do is you want to hold down the middle button until the blue light on the soundbar starts to blink, which then tells you it's in pairing mode. You also make a sound also that tells you that this is in pairing mode. And then underneath that, you have your surround, your dim minus, and your dim plus. So pretty much what a surround does for you is you enable surround sound, so you can get a bit more bass and a bit more, what's it called now, filled up sound around you. You also have the dim minus and your dim plus. This pretty much is the dim. You see that tiny like I spoke to you about that tells you what mode you're in. The dim minus pretty much reduces that light, and the dim plus increases that light. Now underneath that, you now have your bars. So you can either increase the bass or you can reduce the bass intensity based on how much you want it. And beneath that, you have your source. Again, this is how you switch between the different connectivity modes that you can use to connect this soundbar. Okay, so let's try out how this sounds like. And I'm going to advise that you use an headphone to listen to this. And also because it's late where I am currently, I cannot increase the volume to the max. So I'm going to play an audio with the volume at around, say, 15%, just so you get a feel of what it sounds like when you use this stuff or this soundbar. Okay, so I don't know if that was clear enough, but I hope that at least you were able to hear what that sound like, and you're able to pick up on how good it sounds. In my ear, it sounds really good, and especially because of the sound woofer that it has underneath. Remember I said it has a sound woofer underneath, and that makes a big difference, because originally I was going to buy a different model, not this particular one, but that one didn't have a sound woofer underneath, and it sounded very flat. But this one with the sound woofer underneath, and the fact that it weighs on kind of makes the bass a bit more poppy, a bit more loud and a bit more rich, in my opinion, But now we've covered that high sound. Can we now cover the problem? Mind you, I had done this test connecting this using the aux cable one. For that to happen, it means that I have to switch over to the aux mode. If I don't switch over to aux mode, it wouldn't work. You have to switch over to the aux mode for you to be able to figure out that you're playing sound through the aux mode. It doesn't do that automatically. But let's now go to the problem. So over the past 2 months, the problem I realized with this particular speaker is connecting it via Bluetooth. Now, connecting via Bluetooth is not a problem, but the problem is having to play content using Bluetooth. Normally, you would know that Bluetooth lags. You know that sometimes Bluetooth is not as smooth or is not as fast as using aux cable. But for this particular one, it lags. Like the lag is very noticeable. Like you will literally notice it that it has stopped. Like you have stopped playing what you're playing and it's still playing. And I think it's better to just even show you this than to even tell you. Maybe then you will understand what I'm talking about. So guys, I have my laptop here and I have a soundbar over there. If you notice, the soundbar has a blue light, which means that it's connected via Bluetooth through or with my laptop. So I'm going to play this video and notice how my mouse starts to move before you can start to hear what I'm saying from the soundbar. be on at the time. Unlike the NX Master 3, it's very chargeable. It uses the battery and it uses just one battery. However, if you look at it, you see this is the battery that it comes with. Now, so realize that even after it starts to pick the audio, it does not match up. There's a lot of lag, delay in the audio, and they don't connect. And even when I pause the video, you could still hear that the audio kept going. So we're going to do another test to figure out how long it takes for this to finally now pick up what you're saying, pretty much. So I have my timer here, and I'm going to play this as well and start this at the same time. And according to Logitech, this battery will last you 24 minutes. So we're looking at. So judging by this, we have a 30 seconds, 32 milliseconds delay, which is crazy pretty much, which is insane. Like, it's very noticeable, pretty much is unusable because you cannot use it to watch video. So at this point, you pretty much figured out what I was talking about as to how it has this massive lag, especially when you're playing this with Bluetooth. I realize that sometimes even when you're using this soundbar with the aux cable, you still get that latency, but only when you just start to play the content. So for instance, you're watching Netflix, you see that that you get. Once you play your Netflix, you don't get the first 1 or 1.5 second sound of that. It starts from like 2 seconds and you start hearing what you're listening to, and then you pause and you play and it plays smoothly, but for Bluetooth, it happens frequently. It's unusable pretty much. You cannot use this to watch movie using Bluetooth. And I think that is a problem that if you're going to buy this soundbar, you should be aware of. You would not be able to use this to consume media, visual media, via Bluetooth. Is that a problem? Like, is that enough reason not to want to buy this soundbar? I think it depends on what you're buying the soundbar. For instance, I don't see how ideally you should use a soundbar to listen, to watch video content when you have other means. I think the main purpose usually for soundbar is to be able to watch content on your TV, and when you want to use the Bluetooth, you're trying to play music, and for music, you would never know it's lagging because you're not seeing the audio music, you're just listening to it. So that particular problem of lag is not going to be there. I mean, even though it's there, but you would not notice it because it's music, it's audio, and there are no visuals to come with it, But if that might be a problem for you, I think you should then take note that this particular soundbar does have visual lag, especially when you're using it with Bluetooth. But if that does not concern you, then I think it's a good soundbar. I think is portable enough, the build quality is nice, the sound is cool and it's good in my opinion. And the price point is very, very reasonable. And for the price point, I had got this for around 120k as at December last year. So do with this information what you want to. If you want to purchase this, you can purchase this from anywhere, I think. And I didn't buy this from Jimmy. I had to go into what's it called now, a showroom to buy it. So chances are it may be cheaper somewhere else depending on where you're living in this part of the country. But this is what I want to talk about. The problem that I think that everybody or anybody who's going to use this soundbar should be aware of and should know that it is a possibility. Having said this, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, please share, comment, and let me know what you think about this video. And also let me know what you think about so it's a 140 watts. I don't know what that means, to be honest. If you know what that means, please let me know. And yeah, see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.